I'm Hannah Moore, CFP, a practicing financial planner and educator. I'm on a mission to change the way people think and talk about money. Let's get started. I often talk about this idea of aligning your money with your values and what's most important to you. And I want to go into a little bit more detail about what does this actually look like in practice? Because this can be something you can say like, okay, that's a great idea, Hannah. I can get behind that idea, but I have no idea how to make this practical. So let's talk through some practical steps of how this looks like, how I've seen it played out in people's lives, and dive into this deep. Okay, so the first thing is we have to know what's important to you, right? What makes your life unique? Like not even just what makes your life unique, but what is just the most important pieces to you? So oftentimes I have a values exercise. If you guys go to the show notes page on this, we'll have a link to that for you guys. So you guys can have free access to this values exercise. But you write out what's most important to you. What are these values that are central to who you are and what this looks like for you. Now, these are not necessarily, I don't want you to think of them just in financial terms. You know, when we think about our values, it needs to be things that are just really, really, again, central to us. So think about times where you've just experienced just that joy in life. You've had that fullness of like, yes, this is what it's about. And this does not have to be related to money. So family can be one, or it cannot be one. Again, that's okay. There are no values that are better than or less than others, right? These are our unique stories. This is how we are unique. There is nobody I've met. I've worked with a lot of clients over the years, and nobody has had the same set of values, right? So give yourself permission to be really honest with yourself, not about what should you be prioritizing, but what are your values? What is most central and most important to you? And that's going to be really important. I have my computer screen right here in front of me, and I have my values listed there so I can see it every single day. They've become a filter for my work. This become a filter for everything that I do. But on some of mine, you'll see creativity is one of mine that not everybody has. It's important for me to have that creative outlet as an example. I've seen a lot of other values from clients. You know, I look at family has been a big one for a lot of people. Relationships will be big. I've had one client write in exploration, which I just loved that as a value, something that's just central to her and what's really important to her. But figuring out what's important to you if you're in a relationship or you're married. Talk to your spouse about this. What's important to them? Because this isn't just about you, it's about them too. And again, most couples, I find that there's definitely some overlapping ones, and there's definitely some ones that don't overlap. I don't think it'd be fair to the rest of us if you guys completely lined up on your values. So I always encourage you guys to do these separately and then come back together if you're in a relationship, because that's a really big piece of the financial side of this, is knowing what's important to you and then knowing what's important for you guys as a couple, right? Two different things, but they're very complementary on this. Okay, so now the question can be, okay, now that we know what our values are, right? Our life values, how do we align our money with that? And so here's where the answer is it depends, right? That's the most cliche financial planner answer there is, but it's so true. So let me give you kind of some framework. I had a friend who was talking about this, and she said at the beginning of every year, her and her husband sit down and say, how am I going to be sure that we are prioritizing these 4 things that are important for us? And that can be whatever it is for you, right? How are we going to be sure that we're doing this year? And then sit down and make some intentions for the year, or however you guys do it. That can be for the quarter. I've seen that done, or for the month, whatever that looks like for you guys, for you to do that, to make sure that this is tied in. Now, your money is going to play a big piece in this, right? Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, we know that money certainly helps solve some problems, but money is not tied to values. So here's an exercise that we have in the workbook that we have for y'all. That I have people go through. So one of the things I'll do is I'll have you guys list out your values, right? So on the left-hand side of your paper, list out your values. And then across the top, list out different price points. And what's going to be a lot or a little to you is going to be very, very different than the next person. So it might be, $0 to $10 free. and then $0 to $10 and $10 to $50 or something like that. Or it could be, anything under $100 doesn't feel like anything to us, depending on what your financial situation is, but kind of create 3 different categories of dollar amounts. Now, Each one of your values that you have can be lived out at different price points, all the way from free to about as expensive as you can make it. And so write these things down. What does this look like, right? Get in this idea of like, okay, let's walk through this. Family is a great one. For family, it can be, I want to go spend 2 weeks with my family from out of town. I want to be able to take off work for that. I want to be able to get hotels when we're there because we don't want to stay with your family. Like I get it. It's that, just kidding. So obviously you can stay with your family. It's no issue. We stay with our family. So I'm not throwing shade at that, but I also understand people who don't want to be staying with their family. So, but it can be, I want to take my family to Disney World, right? That can be a huge expense, a huge dollar amount that could be so fulfilling and amazing, right? But it's also really, really expensive. But there's other ways to live out this value of family. It could be that I'm going to go have dinner with my parents if you guys live close by. It could be that I'm going to FaceTime with my family that lives somewhere else. It could be that I'm going to be intentional with my daughter and spend an extra hour with her tomorrow morning. It can be a lot of different things. It's going to range in the cost, right? Money is a way to facilitate some of this, but you can live out your values. There's just about every value you can live out at a free price point all the way up to crazy expensive. The exploration one, I love this so much because I think it gives a good illustration of what this can be. Exploration can be flying first class and staying in 5-star hotels all around the world and visiting 80 countries. Like that is one way of living out that value. Another way of living out that value is by going and exploring the resources within your city. It's by going to your library. It's by going and watching documentaries. It's by going and making friends with really interesting people in your community. There's so many different ways of doing this. And I think when we start talking about values and money, people often assume that means that they have to be allocating money in a certain way. And so what I would encourage you to do is make this grid out of saying, what are my values? How does it align with the money at different price points? And then be intentional about doing some of those things at the various price points that fit within your budget. There are going to be times in all of our lives where money's really, really tight, and we're going to be skewing towards the free and low cost ones. And then there's going to be times where you're going to be able to splurge and go on that trip or do that thing with your family or whatever that could be. Creativity, take that class, that expensive art class or whatever that could be. And again, it's all about finding this balance, but I know I keep saying this, but my happiest clients, the happiest people with their money is where they are doing things that align with their values. And oftentimes money can align with that, right? And spending money on those things is going to be what separates you out from people who are living wealthy now, as I like to say, versus those who are just in this constant struggle, with money, and this constant, why won't any of this work? Why am I not getting this fulfillment? It's because they haven't aligned their life and then subsequently their money with their values. So I encourage you today, identify those values. We have that on our website for you for free. And then do something that aligns with that, whether or not you're spending money or not. But make sure that when you do have extra money, or when you are planning out your life, whether that, whatever pace that may be, that you're asking this other question of how can I be sure that we prioritize these things this year? And again, it can look any different price point on that. So good luck as you guys do this, as you guys go to aligning your money with your values. I'll tell you, it's something you won't regret. So good luck, y'all. We'd love to hear how it goes. Thanks for listening to this episode of Everyday Money with Hannah Moore. If you like what you heard, subscribe and check out livewealthynow.com. We have a lot more resources to help you live wealthy now.